You'll hear me say it many times again and again. I'll say that this is the most important discovery in medical science since the discovery of antibiotics. That's how important it is.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's very cool.
Who's talking besides Glenn?
That's Marianne. Who else is talking?
I'm Sandy Scapatello, Marianne. I'm going to see you Saturday.
Oh, yeah. I'll be in Charlotte. Oh, I'm so excited. Good.
All right.
I got my phone number. All right. We've got this thing recorded. I'm going to mute everybody, and then we'll unmute the speakers here in just a minute. Hold on. Okay. Everybody's muted. First of all, I want to thank everybody that's on the call tonight, and Happy New Year. I'm so excited for 2017. We want to make this a great call, a call that has a lot of value to you. And obviously we want to hear any feedback. You can message, during the call. I know some of you guys are on the phone, and we always have more people viewing afterwards. So we put this up on our website, and on the legacy page on the images website, and I'll put that link down here too so you guys can see that. But I want to introduce a great friend of mine and somebody that I just love dearly. And when you do something like this, when you do life with people you care about, it's so much fun. And this woman has been in our kids played hockey together. She's amazing. I have watched her educate not only herself so she can share with others, but her passion for empowering women and helping people every day. And so Trish, go ahead and unmute yourself. And
thank you. How's my volume? Am I okay?
Yeah. Just
okay. Well, thank you. I'm Trish Hetherington, and thank you, Marianne. I appreciate that. And I'm so excited to introduce Dr. Glen Winkle to everybody here. If you saw on Facebook his education resume, I am a Twitter. And I understand, and I have checked you out, Dr. Glen, that you are able to take very complex scientific information and break it down for the rest of us. And I'm really excited to specifically hear about the I-26 product, how you got introduced to it, how you use it, and why it's so important, not only for everyday people, also for these Olympic athletes that you're coaching. So without further ado, Dr. Glen, thanks so much.
Yes. Well, it's just funny, I've been an athlete for 35 years. I've been competing as a bike racer. I've been able to serve on the U.S. Postal Service team. My Lance Armstrong was my teammate, of course. And in the course of bike racing, I've won 7 world championships and 29 now national championship titles. So been very successful. But along the way, I've been using my science background as a scientist to develop ways to get performance enhancement without using drugs. As you know, my teammate was tagged for using drugs and blood doping and stuff like that. And I've been accused of it for many years, but for me, it's really a matter of how do you find ways to enhance performance without going the illegal route, essentially. And so been very successful at it. And then about 2000 or 2001, I'm not sure what year it was a long time ago, I stumbled upon I-26, the idea of the hyperion egg technology. And, being a scientist, I have a lot of things cross my path that I kind of go, yeah, sure. And I got a phone call from a friend of mine who was in network marketing. He was talking about this product. And I said, oh, yeah, right, whatever. But luckily, Dr. Helen Greenblatt realized that scientists, being very skeptical, need a little bit of a push, a little nudge. And so she called me up and left me a message. And I was like, okay, I'll give her a call back. We chatted for about an hour on the phone about the technology and what it represents. I said, I'll get a closer look at this thing. And the more I studied, the more I realized there was something unique here that I'd never seen before. And the fact that it was so effective and efficacious, I thought, I started looking into this. And of course, what had happened was, it's always funny how many times you're skeptical about something and then something really dramatic happens. And that thing is kind of kicks you over the top. You realize, I have to look further into this. And what had happened was a good friend of mine, his son had developed leukemia, also a bike racer. And I was visiting this family over in Texas, and I literally just started the product 2 weeks before. And so I felt good. I felt better, okay, another product, whatever. But what happened was Timothy was very, very sick from chemotherapy. And so what happened was after he gets on chemotherapy, his blood counts would go extremely low to the point where they had to stop chemotherapy. So I was there for about a week at their house, and I said to his mom, I said, look, Ladima, let's put Timothy on this product. Give him 2 scoops of it. Let's see what he does. And that was on a Wednesday when I left. By Friday, his blood counts were almost near normal, and they put him back in chemotherapy the following Monday. And I was like, wow. And so he dramatically improved from the chemotherapy over that period of time. So I realized I had something that was quite dramatic. That was a very, very fast response, faster than I've ever seen before with nutritional supplement type programs. And I thought, there's something here. And I started studying more and more. I started seeing benefits in all types of areas, whether it was just, cancer patients and blood counts and everything else. We did a big study in South Africa. You might want to know about that study someday. We worked with hundreds of AIDS patients and saw dramatic results. The data was presented at some of the big conferences in Uganda and Kenya. And we've done some things right now that we haven't presented, but if the World Health Organization knew what we knew, this would be the most significant development in HIV research, period, end of story. So anyway, let me go forward from there. As an athlete, I realized I was getting performance gains. In fact, it was kind of funny. In a bike race, I'd be going really, really hard. And I turn around to have some people, we share the load when we're in a bike race. Each person takes a turn at the front. So I'd be at the front doing my hard work, going really hard. And I pull over, I say, come on, pull through. And everyone's going like, they wouldn't come through. I go, come on, pull through. And they're like, they can't. So I go, a couple more after the top. I pull over, I go, come on, pull through. They're like, Glenn, we can't. I'm like, what's wrong with you guys? And this kept happening. And I'd ride away from people. And it was like, I just drop and leave in the dust and just like, what do you want? I'm like going like, oh, I got this new product I've been taking. And so I realized there was some performance gains taking place. I started studying it more in depth. And Dr. Greenblatt suggested I put together a study to study things, delayed onset muscle soreness, things of that sort. And I developed a study that was a 60-day study, 60 patients, 13 blood tests. It was a rather complete scientific study. It took me about 2 months to write it. Submitted to the company, and they came back to me, it's going to be too expensive to do. We're going to cut it back a bit. And they cut it back to 24 students, 10-day study. And I'm like, you can't get data in 10 days. You just can't get data like that. You got to have a complete study. Well, after about a couple of weeks in the study, Dr. Sheets calls me up and says, Glenn, you got to see this data. And so I started looking at the data going like, there's something happening here that's significant in just 10 days, which is really significant when it happens in such a short time. And I have to say, I've seen benefits in 10 days before. So, looking at the data, it was just like night and day. And I realized we had something significant. And Francis Marina, who was with the company then, we basically created, you probably haven't seen this product, this one here. Have you seen that one? That's the product we developed out of it. Same product as I-26, exact same product, just different label. That's all it is. It was designed for athletes, and we called it IGY Max Performance at the time. And that's a whole nother story out there. Unfortunately, that product no longer exists, or at least the label doesn't, but the product's still here, thank God. But the really fun thing is that, when I explain this product to people, I'm a scientist. So I try to explain it very carefully and very concisely about what it is and what it does. And I remember I was doing a health fair a long time ago, and I was talking to an attorney. Now, attorneys are very concise about things. So I was very concise, very specific about what the product was. And then he says to me, but I eat eggs. And obviously it went right over his head. So I explained it again, and he said to me again, but I eat eggs. And I go, okay, you didn't get it at all. And so I've come away from that a bit, and I tried to think about how do you explain the I-26 concept to people that don't quite understand. They're thinking supplement. They're not thinking what this actually does. And when I try to explain the science behind it, they don't quite get it. So in my studies, I realized that I need to find a better way to explain it that makes more sense to people. So I'm going to give you one explanation first, what I used to do. And I still do from time to time for the nerd science folks about how to explain it. And it goes like this. It's that I explain that when a mother gives birth to a child, okay, and she nurses that child, do you realize that what's happening is that the immune system is putting in the mother's first milk, the colostrum, specific immune antibodies that help the child protect them from different diseases the mother's been exposed to. And so basically that's called the passive transfer of immunity from mother to child. And so we've shown that passive transfer immunity can dramatically help the health of the child. I mean, breastfed babies have stronger immune responses. They have less colds, less ear infections, less sinus infections, and on down their line. They actually have lower cardiovascular scores. They have lower risk of diabetes. They have lower risk of high blood pressure. Down the road, all that happens in early development. So breastfeeding is incredibly important for mammals. However, the catch is that chickens don't breastfeed. Think about that. They don't breastfeed. So in the chicken model, what happens, chickens still pass down immunity to their young, only they do it through the egg, because a chicken only gets one egg. Think about that. They can't actually keep breastfeeding over a period of time. They only get what's in the egg. The egg contains a highly concentrated source of immune factors, just like the mother's breast milk would. So in that sense, you have a very nice model. If you expose a chicken to human disease, chicken never gets sick with the human diseases, then the chicken develops antibodies against those diseases, which we can confer by passive transit towards us. Now, that's the basic explanation I use, and a lot of people, it goes over their heads, obviously. And so how do you explain the technology of these antibodies to an individual who doesn't quite understand the concept? And so I went back to something that's actually all over the news these days. And if you turn on any TV set and you watch commercials, you're going to see commercials for probiotics, Activia, or different types of yogurts or things of that sort that basically allow the immune system to recolonize the GI tract. And so it's really big in the news these days. And what's interesting is that that's the approach that I use, because let me explain it this way. I was at a conference in DC, and I was listening to Dawn Weatherwax, and she was a gal who did work with athletes, a sports nutritionist, and her approach was very different from my approach, but she got almost the same results that I was getting. Similar performance enhancements, similar performance and anxiety and everything else. And so I realized what was going on was that she was actually doing what's called probiotics and prebiotics. Probiotics being the idea of supplying the proper environment, essentially certain food sources that contain the right substrates and right environment for good bacteria to grow, and also applying probiotics to the system, which also essentially would colonize the GI tract, and therefore force out the pathogenic bacteria. Well, we know the I-26 was created against 29 different pathogens that live in the GI tract, okay? So it's a targeted delivery system, essentially, to wipe out bad bacteria. So after the conference, I asked Dawn, I said, Dawn, have you ever had failures where you try this approach, prebiotic and probiotic effect? And she goes, oh yeah, it happens all the time. And I said, I want you to try something. And I gave her 6 cans of the I-26 and said, try it on those patients that didn't work and let me know what happens. Well, the interesting thing was that every single person that tried the product got results. And I realized that her approach plus our approach is far more powerful, except her approach is non-specific, our approach is very specific. And the way I explain this is very simple, is that I know that if a person's been exposed to pathogenic bacteria for a long period of time in the GI tract, they're going to basically colonize the GI tract, and they're going to be very difficult to eradicate. So when you add probiotics, well, that's all well and good for the GI tract, and it does have some benefit. But the point is that those pathogenic bacteria are going to persist inside your GI tract, and they're going to grow. So what I-26 is doing, it is supplying antibodies against the pathogens, essentially attacking them, essentially wiping them out, which allows the probiotics to colonize the GI tract in an environment where there's less of the pathogenic bacteria. And that's why it works so effectively. So that's the approach I use. When I explain to people, I talk about the microbiome. Now, how many have heard about the microbiome? Okay. Yeah, I have too now. It's becoming more common. In fact, in the science world, it's one of the hottest fields in science right now. Now, you've probably, in your years of working with supplements, you probably made a statement something like this, that we have 73 trillion cells in our body, right? That ring a bell? Do you realize we have over 700 trillion bacteria living in our bodies? So 10 times the number of cells in our body are actually bacteria. And this is the microbiome. And the thing is that we are really, in our country, we're really big on antibiotics and antibacterials and clean surfaces and all this kind of stuff. And in reality, our immune systems are designed to have lots of pathogens. Lots of pathogens. We're designed to be exposed to pathogens and then mount immune responses to it. And I really believe that one of the reasons why we have such a high incidence of autoimmune diseases in the US is because we're so careful about, wiping out all the bacteria in our environment and affecting the microbiome. So the foods we eat, the antibiotics we take, the sterile environments we live in means our immune systems are looking for things to do. And I'll go ahead and attack the muscle or attack the connective tissue, and you get autoimmune disease. So the thing is that if a person has an altered microbiome or an unhealthy microbiome, in some cases, some microbiomes can actually cause people to be obese. There's some now good research about that. As well as when there's pathogenic bacteria in the GI tract, the immune system has 2 basic environments which it functions in. One is a very dry, technically dry, arid environment, very light field, and one's a very dark, warm, moist, humid environment. And if you think about this, more bacteria are going to grow in that human environment. And that means the immune system is going to spend a tremendous amount of energy dealing with that environment. Well, that's the GI tract. We have this 23-foot long tube that's dark, moist, and has high surface area where it absorbs nutrients, but bacteria live in there. And on average, the average person has 3 to 5 pounds of bacteria living in their bodies inside their GI tract. Now, those bacteria are pathogens, and they're not normal, healthy, like acidophilus type bacteria. They are actually causing the immune system to have to deal with all those bacteria in the GI tract. It focuses energy on the GI tract, anywhere from 70 to 80% of its energy, and it can't do other tasks as well. So we've had people that have cancer where they're trying to deal with the cancer, but they have inflammatory conditions in the GI tract, and they can't fight the cancer very effectively. So if you can normalize activity with the I-26 by adding these antibodies to the GI tract, wiping out the pathogens, allowing the GI tract to turn down the inflammatory response, it allows the immune system to function more effectively. So that, to me, has been the most effective way of explaining how I-26 works.
Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me okay? So that allows me to explain to people how the I-26 can be so effective in so many areas, because what it's doing is turning down the inflammation at the GI level, which turns down inflammation about the whole body. One of the reasons why we see a lot of patients that have inflammatory conditions elsewhere, that turns down as well too, because it's turned down the inflammation in the GI tract. So the immune system kind of calms down and allows it to be more effective about the whole body. Now think about this in an athlete. This is where it really helps athletes. If their GI tract is inflammatory because it has pathogens in its GI tract, and you you basically kill the pathogens, turn down the inflammation, it means their immune system can focus on other things like recovery from exercise, or like, for example, sports performance. Like a lot of athletes get sick at races because they've been training so hard, their immune systems are compromised, and they go to a competition, they get sick at the competition, or they go to the World Championships and they're sick during the World Championships or the Olympics, for example. So if you can turn down the inflammatory response GI tract, performance can be enhanced for the athlete from that perspective. So there are a lot of things that can be done to make the immune system stronger, but you probably have heard that, we talk about the balance effect of the I-26, what it does, how it balances. So I have people that have, inflammatory conditions, or they might have allergy conditions, or they might have, be getting sick a lot, or they might be not so healthy in other areas. Basically, the I-26 can balance the immune system because it's turning down inflammation, allowing it to function more effectively. So that's one of the ways I kind of explain things. I've kind of given you a really short, to the point kind of thing. And I can go into lots of details, but I don't want to really spend a lot of time on the details. I want to keep it simple and straightforward. Like you said, like Trish said, try to keep it in a way that you can explain to someone fairly simply and fairly easily. And so I use the microbiome as my way in, because people all know about probiotics and, your Activia type yogurts and things like that stuff. And they kind of know that has a benefit. But this way you can actually attack from two perspectives. And I always say the two work better together, is that I-26 first takes out the pathogens, probiotics add back in probiotics, which now recolonize with healthy bacteria, giving you a healthy GI, turns down inflammatory response, which affects all sorts of inflammatory diseases, whether it be something like arthritis to that effect, or as we say, healthy joints. But if you have an inflammatory condition like rheumatoid arthritis, they've shown now that probiotics can actually help rheumatoid arthritis because you're turning down inflammation in the GI tract, turns down whole body inflammation, turns down inflammation in the joints, things of that sort. So that's kind of a really quick overview. I'm not sure if that's, I know we had only 30 minutes. I wanted to keep it short and leave time for questions, but
yeah, no, you did great, and I love listening to you, and you are precise on what you're talking about, and I can understand. I'm not the nerd, right? But I can. So that's really good. Trish, did we have any questions?
I haven't gotten any on the email. However, I have a question. Would you recommend using the I-26 and a good probiotic at the same time, or would you say 2 weeks with the I-26 and then add a probiotic, or just roughly?
Very good question. Sometimes, as you know, when people take lots of supplements, they don't know if something works. And I'm very clear. I figure, I was a grad student for too long, living on nothing. So I always try to be very concise about how do I get maximum benefit for my clients, because that way they realize I'm trying to save them money to get maximum benefit. So I always do one thing at a time. I'm a scientist. We always make one change and leave everything else the same and ask the question, did it work? Do you get benefits? Yes or no? And sometimes, though, things work better together. They work better symbiotically. So, for example, with I-26, I've discovered that it takes about 3 or 4 days to reach maximal effective dose. So, in other words, the first day you might have a certain dose and it starts to build to a certain level. After about 3 or 4 days, it hits maximum dose. I always say make a change, wait 3 or 4 days, and then assess how's it working, okay? And I have a simple approach. I say, okay, after 3 or 4 days, do you feel better, do you feel worse, or do you feel the same? If you feel worse, drop the dose. If you feel better, stay where you are. If you feel nothing at all, increase the dose. It's very simple. Now, normally, what I find is that after about the first couple of weeks, if they've determined that it's actually having a benefit for them, then I say add the probiotics then. Now, some people take them together. You know, I take everything all at once because it's easier. Otherwise, I forget. I don't take it in the morning. So for me, that's just what I do. But I've been doing it for a long time now. I have found that sometimes, and this is Dr. Helen and I had a little bit of disagreement about this, but that's okay. That's scientists always get to disagree now and then. But my feeling is that I know that the I-26 was developed against GI bacteria. And we have no way to specify what aspect of the GI bacteria it's going after. So I know that there are some similarities between things like your beneficial bacteria and your pathogenic bacteria. They have simple similar cell walls and simple features. So I thought, well, you know, it's possible that the I-26 can be wiping out or affecting some of the beneficial bacteria, right? That makes sense because there might persist some cross-reactivity. So I have found sometimes in some patients, they suffer from, it might be diarrhea or constipation or gas. So when that happens, I say it's very important that they add back a supplement, a probiotic supplement. And when I have them do that, they get much better results. And in fact, it's consistently better results. And so I really think that probiotics, well, I should say pre and probiotics work better together with I-26 than by itself. So that's been my approach over the years. So
Okay.
I always recommend if I'm going to add I-26, I add just the I-26, see the benefits I get. If they have a problem with gas or with bloating or something like that, I say, hey, try a probiotic. And that usually helps a lot. So.
Okay. Well, that's similar to when you're going to go work out in the gym.
Yes.
Change one aspect at a time.
Aspect. Yes.
So hopefully that answered Sherry's question on how do you know when you're taking the correct dosage.
Yes.
We have a question on would I-26 be effective in addressing chronic non-arthritic pain, for example, a traumatic injury?
Okay, let me go back to the previous question. It's very, very important because this came up recently with a patient of mine. Here's what I do. Normally, I start everybody on 1 serving. Okay, now I go about 3 or 4 days, and I either increase or decrease, depending. Now, autoimmune disease, okay, inflammatory conditions, sometimes the activity will actually boost the immune system slightly and cause a flare. So I tell people that have autoimmune disease or arthritic conditions, for example, start on half a serving. Go 3 or 4 days. Always half a serving with autoimmune disease. And then go up or down from there. I've had people that start on half a serving, that's too much. They went to quarter serving, that's too much. Went to like capsules, that was about right. And then gradually worked up. Typically, the average person is somewhere between 1 and 2 doses a day. I do 3 a day. I used to do 2 a day, and I thought, I get a little bit of a cold. I'm going to go to 3 a day. I've been 3 a day now for the past, 7 or 8 years. Just 3 servings a day. That's what I do. I take it all in the morning. It's easier. Let's go back to this. Chronic non-arthritic pain, traumatic injury, scar tissue. Okay, here's the thing. I have to be careful when I talk about I-26 because we can't specifically talk about this as for arthritis or for something because then it becomes a drug. But from the point of view of something like this, you have to think back to what it actually does. Okay, we know that it has specificity on the immune system. We also know it has specificity for the nervous system and also the endocrine system. So we know that by normalizing GI activity, we know that it affects the nervous system, endocrine system, and immune system. So if you talk about it from that perspective, we're talking about scar tissue, traumatic injury, which is neurological. You're talking about PTSD. You're talking about things of that sort. By normalizing immune activity, the body can heal far better than without the product alone. Now, that's the best way to explain without crossing the boundaries the FDA would have for me to say. I can't say, for example, it treats PTSD, but I have seen benefit people with PTSD. I'll tell you a fun story. This is a great story. I was giving a presentation at, it was Santa Rita? It was Pleasanton. It was in Pleasanton. It's a Santa Rita jail. And what it was, the police officers that run the jail there, that work at the jail. And I had a little booth there, and I had a little TV thing going. And I had 3 officers came by, and I was giving a 3-ounce serving of the I-26 in a like a chocolate shake. So 3 ounces is like about a third of a normal sized drink. and they all had a little serving and drank it. And they're standing there talking like about maybe 3 feet from me, a gal and 2 police officers. And the woman turns to me and says, "Excuse me, but how fast does this product work?" And I said, "Well, it can take anywhere from few minutes to a couple of months." And she goes, "I feel like a wave of calm passed over me." Now, I've seen this happen to many people. I had a guy who was an artist come to my studio one time, and he was in San Francisco, and I said, I gave him a triple serving dose. It was like a big shake. "Try this." He goes, sucks it down. He goes, "Wow, I feel great." I mean, I've seen it happen that quickly. To some people, it has a response almost immediately. I had a cyclist. This is a funny story. I've been coaching him for years, it seemed like, and he was always a pack rider, rode in the pack, never went to the front, rode in the pack, never won races. And I finished my bike race. I was taking my shake. I was about to go, take my recovery drink, which is my shake. And Ronaldo walks up and says, "Oh, what's that?" I go, "It's my recovery drink. Want to try something?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, and he sucked the whole thing down. I'm like, "That was my recovery drink." He goes, "Oh, it was good." I go, "Yeah, thanks." And he goes up to finish his warm up, starts the race. And this was a really tough race. Had a headwind on the levee, dropped on the levee, came around, a big loop, and it's the Pro 1-2 field, so it's the top riders. And the first lap, here's Ronaldo coming up the hill, towing the field into the headwind. Now, mind you, he never goes to the front, ever. And I took pictures. Here's his field, and he's like a boat, and there's like a big wave of riders following him into the headwind. He's just going, and he goes, and his dad, Alice, goes like, "What's with Ronaldo?" I go, "I don't know." Next lap, there's Ronaldo towing the field in the headwind. I'm like, "What's with Ronaldo?" I go, "I don't know." He's never, lap after lap, he's towing the pro field around. I'm like going, he's never done that before. I'm like, his dad's like, "Well, I gave him my recovery drink. Maybe it's working, So anyway, what was funny about this was that after the race, he goes, "What was in that drink?" I go, "My recovery drink." He goes, "Yeah, that." He goes, "I thought I had so much strength." I go, "Well, heck, you were towing the field around. You should have waited at the end. You would have won the race. You got like third or fourth." And so I know that it works quickly in some athletes. It happens that fast. So that's a fun story. But, normally what I do with most people, I have so many stories, it's not even funny anymore. I have thousands of stories. But many times a person comes to me and says, "Well, it worked for this." And I'll tell you what, I have no idea, but let's try it. So I had a person that came to me, he had Wegener's disease. Wegener's is an inflammatory condition of the circulatory system. And his lung was giving out, his brain was giving out, his knee was giving out, his kidneys he's on dialysis 3 times a week. And so he said, "Well, let's try it and see what happens." Well, 2 weeks later, he's still on chemo. I mean, he's still on dialysis, but he's doing much better. Here's the funny part, though. He was in a wheelchair. He couldn't walk. Well, his wife Bonnie had these railroad ties around a little raised garden, and he was out in the backyard lifting the railroad ties and putting them up so she could have a raised garden in the backyard. And the neighbor across the way was like, "What are you doing?" It's like, fixing Bonnie's garden. That's how he recovered in just 2 weeks' time. And so we knew that it worked for Wegener's, which was inflammation of the circulatory system, essentially, of the artery walls. So, I always find in a situation where I don't know if it's going to work, I really don't know, but let's try it and see what happens. And that's what I've done over the years. Yeah. So.
Well, and I think, those are great stories. And I think you're right. I think a lot of times people, they don't know what to expect. And if we build up their expectation,
right,
we don't know how it's going to react. So I like that. Let's just try it. Let's just see what happens.
Right. I'll give you an example, okay? I had a gentleman that, I'll leave him unnamed, but what happened was he was trying the product. And I think it was he had a back injury, and he was looking for relief from his back injury. And so so what happened was, after a couple of weeks, he said, "Well, it's not really working for me. My back doesn't feel much better." I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." So he was going to stop the product. I get a phone call from his wife. She says, "Whatever you do, don't let him stop that product." I'm like, "What do you mean?" He says, "Oh my gosh. He's such a crab all the time. He's just so all the time. And he's just been good natured. He's been pleasant. It's been fun being around him. He's just a much nicer person overall." I'm like, "Really?" He says, "He doesn't know it, but I know it." And I was like, so his wife noticed the benefit that he was getting, but he didn't even notice the benefit at all. His back wasn't feel better, but he wasn't grouchy. He wasn't grumpy. He was just a nicer husband. And I'm like, well, there you go. I know we have, I think they still say it on here on the can, but they've changed the label so many times over the years, increased energy. There used to be a saying, it used to say, something about mood or something like that. It used to say something to the effect of, sense of well-being. You know, when I first started this product, I was going through divorce, and I was just like, whatever, I don't care. So what? You want that? Take it. I don't care. I was so happy. I didn't care. Just get me out of here. I want to get out and move on. And it was easy. I was like, yeah, no big deal. So they've shown now. I just read a study today about this, about the microbiome and anxiety. And they find that if you have a normal or a healthy gut bacteria biome, you're less anxious. And we've seen that over the years that this seems to calm anxiety. And we kind of go, well, how does it calm anxiety? And we find people were losing weight with it. How do you lose weight? Well, if you alter the microbiome, you might be eliminating those bacteria that cause body to retain, essentially certain nutrients that create weight, or, we don't know, but they have a weight loss product as well, as a result. So we're seeing so many areas in which it functions that we don't even know the areas in which it can go into yet. We have to be careful from the perspective. We can't talk about it treating disease. But we do know that it does remarkable things for people that have issues. Like with my cancer patients, I don't say it specifically treats the cancer because it doesn't really. But what it does do, it helps normalize the blood levels and the immune system during chemotherapy, which is kind of a gray area, but it's so dramatic how well it works. I see a minute here. COPD inflammation, would you agree? Yes, I would agree on COPD, and definitely, in fact, yes. Anytime you hear the word inflammation, my brain thinks I-26, automatically. Any inflammatory condition, I-26, that's a given. Now, the thing is, inflammation is kind of one of those gray areas too. So I don't say it doesn't treat inflammation. What I tell people is it will turn down the inflammatory response in your GI tract, which should turn and calm the inflammation with the whole body. And that's the best way to explain it so it makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, I love this. Very encouraging.
Wow.
Decided to help with anxiety. Yes, it really does. It really does. It's
you gotta give it to your
in high stress situation. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you there.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, give it to your husband, your children,
your pets.
Everybody be at that calm state here.
Yes. Oh yeah.
I would have to say that I love the give it a try. Mm-hmm. And we know this also with all the other longevity products. That's why there's that 30-day money-back guarantee.
Right.
So they're going to know in a week,
yes,
probably, what's going on. And that makes everything more effective.
If they use
better diet, their supplements from Dr. Wallach. I mean, it's just always such a great marriage.
Well, here's the thing I found. I have good examples. My mother. I was visiting her, and she has the can, and actually she has a can from 2012 in her refrigerator. She hasn't finished using. I'm like, Mom, you're not using it. Well, she has all the excuses. And so when I was there, I'd make a shake up and I'd give it to her. Here, drink this. Oh, this isn't bad. I go, yeah, I know it's not bad. Every day I got to have it. So many people don't use it. Knowing the benefit of it, they still don't use it. And I don't know why that is. We go, it's too much work to make it up. They want to just take a supplement or drink a drink. It's just, I put it in a shaker cup now in orange juice. I add my 1, 2, or 3 scoops, shake it up and just drink it. It's simple, it's done. And you have to get in the habit of doing something out of the ordinary to take this product. It's not like, as simple as just popping a pill and swallowing a glass of water. You have to make it up and drink it kind of thing. And that's the form in which it works best. But I find people that just don't take it. They know it benefit and they don't take it. I'm just like, please. I've had cancer patients that died because they didn't take it, stuff like that. Or they didn't like the flavor of it. I'm like going, it'll save your life if you take it.
Right.
So, but it is a remarkable product. I'll tell people, I'll say it again. I've said this many times. It is the most important development in medical science since the discovery of antibiotics. And that is huge. And people don't realize how powerful this product is. And so it's our mission to get out there and educate people, explain it in a way that they'll see the benefit and start using the product and use it effectively. Because there's no reason why a person shouldn't have benefit. I have very, very few failures, but I have a very similar protocol. I start with 1 serving or half a serving. I say after about 3 or 4 days, if nothing happens, go up 1 serving to 2 servings. I had one guy, he had severe sinus infection. It was Kevin Hodge, severe sinus infections. We took him to 9 servings and he got benefit. It was really amazing. I said, now bring it down 9 to 8, 8 to 7, 7. And I think he was around 4 or 5 servings. He was getting no sinus problems whatsoever. Then he goes to San Diego for Christmas, left his product home. We shipped some to him. He went a couple of days, started having sinus problems again. Had to ramp back up to like 7 servings and come back down again to like 3 or 4 servings to get it to go away again. But that was his dosage that worked. Yeah. That was the way it was. And so the average person's 1 to 2 servings a day. That's average. And then when a person feels a cold coming on, like this has happened to me about a week or 2 ago. I was starting to feel like, I got something's coming. So I doubled my dose. I go 6 servings a day. In 2 days, it's gone. And that's the way I use it. So I feel something coming on, double my dose, and then it goes away. So I haven't been sick. I haven't been really sick in almost 15 years now, which is remarkable. I just get sick 3 times a year. Start of the season, end of the season. Usually right in the middle of the season during a World Championship event, I was sick. Just the way it was.
Well, and that's a lot of stress too.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Right in the middle of the season.
Travel too. You're traveling to Europe.
Yeah.
Like that,
Got a couple more questions. Let's address those, and then I think we'll wind it up here. But would the complete support be a good way to start out? Or just use capsules?
Oh, okay. I don't recommend capsules for one simple reason. It takes 9 capsules to equal 1 serving.
Okay.
That's a lot of capsules, and that's a lot of capsules to swallow. So I don't recommend capsule for that reason alone, unless a person has to do very low dose. We had one gal that started on 1 capsule a day. That was 1/9 of a serving, and gradually worked up to a serving and a half over time.
Okay.
So, but for the the complete support is, here's the thing about complete support. Complete support has other vitamins, minerals, and protein, other things in it. If a person has like autoimmune disease or has other issues, they might react to something in the complete support in an unfavorable way. So I start them on the pure egg protein. That way it's like, as a science, I like the pureness. It's just pure egg powder. If they're not allergic to eggs, it works just fine. But they might be allergic to soy protein. They might not like something in the product that doesn't work for them. This way, I start them on the I-26 pure egg, and then they want, like, for example, they had a program years ago where they had the complete support in little packages, single serve packages, and I give them out as samples. And people, oh, this tastes great. It's like chocolate milk. Kids love it, just love it. So they just make a chocolate shake in the morning, send them off to school, and oh gosh, I'll tell you a funny story. Barb's sister, Becky, had 2 kids that were constantly getting sick. And of course, that means she got to take time off from work and stay home with the kids and take care of the kids, and they were going to school and stuff. So we got them on the I-26 complete support, essentially. Every day they had their chocolate shake and go to school. Well, after a couple of years, they never got sick anymore. And they said, this is funny, they said to their mom, can we stay home from school sick sometimes? Because we don't get to stay home from school when we're sick. We're never sick anymore. My gosh, I just, it's hilarious. But that's how well it works in families with kids.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's no reason why. You know how when you have like young kids in a family and a young couple, they'll always be getting sick, and it kind of passes around all year long, especially at the start of the school year. If the parents are using it and the kids are using it, that doesn't happen anymore. And it happens time and time again where the families just don't get sick anymore because they all have the I-26. They're all supported. Yeah. So it really works well, you know.
What about ADHD?
Yes. Good question. ADHD has several means of how it works. I suffer from it myself, so I know. And I'm very happy about it. I have no problem with, I don't think I'd survive without being ADHD. But I noticed that if you think about it from this perspective, here's how it helps me. It has a calming effect, and it allows me to focus. So when I go to a bike race and I'm like all scattered, I got to be here, I got to be there, I got to do this, I got to do that. I get on the start line and I feel like just like I have one focus. I look to my left, I look to my right, I go, you guys are going to hurt today. And I just, boom, see you later. And it's just like, they're like, oh man, Winkle's on, just, you know, and it's like, it's fun because it gives me, the way I explain it, when I'm racing, it gives me like a heady feeling. I just feel like, I feel powerful. I get in the line, I'm just like, man, I feel like, I feel strong, I feel powerful, and I feel focused. And I know that everyone out there is going to suffer that day because I'm going to work them really hard. I'm going to make them hurt. And it works, you know? So, it does seem to help. It gives you that sense of calm. It allows me to focus better, which means I get more things done. And of course, the most important thing as an ADHD person, I try to do too much every day as it is. And I notice there are days when I forget, like actually Monday I forgot to take my product. And I forgot to take it later in the day. And so I went into the evening, and right about 10 o'clock at night, I'm like at my computer going like, oh gosh, I'm just so tired. Why am I so tired? Didn't take my product. And like last night, I went to like 2:35. Yeah, I get to bed about 2:35 and pop up at 6 in the morning. So I sleep better. I go to bed later. I work harder, get more done as a result with the I-26. So it's very effective in that regard. Yeah.
So I think basically what you're saying too is that the powder's the best source. And
well, it's the simplest source. I mean, remember, I'm a scientist. I like the fact that I'm adding just one thing. I'm not adding soy protein and vitamins and minerals and everything else in there. I'm adding just one thing. I can see the benefit. But for taste and for kids, I highly recommend complete support. Okay. You can make a shake and split it in half for 2 kids. For young kids, like, you know, going to school, like, you know, 5, 6, 7-year-olds, split it. These kids like 4 ounces or 5 ounces in milk. It's like a chocolate shake. They love it. Oh, can I have a chocolate shake? Down and off they go. It's simple, it's effective, it's easy, and it's very, for kids it works great, just great. You know,
so the powder's a 31-day supply.
Right, exactly.
And, of the I-26. Yep.
Yes.
All right, you guys, thank you so much. I appreciate it. And it sounds like everybody really enjoyed themselves. Thanks for coming on. We are going to fly down and see you. We're going to have fun, get this plane, and Trish and I are going to come down, and we're going to come down and see you. So
I can come up that way too, you know.
Yeah.
That'd be great. We got some traveling going on in the next couple of weeks, but probably sometime in February, late February or something like that. All right?
Sounds great.
So
That'll be great.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming on. And
all right.
All right, you guys. Have a great evening.
Thanks, Glenn. Appreciate it.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We'll be in touch.